drinking beers. That's the American way. We kind of like it. I kind of feel like our governor, and I don't mean to like single DeWine out. I'm just saying if it was your governor, I think it may change opinion. Although I could be wrong. In the middle of the pandemic, when the governor was trying to give us serious information, we turned it into wine with DeWine. Let's get just day hammered and learn about the pandemic. I bet that will lead to not a mess at all. Eye roll. So, like, I don't know, honestly, if a population of people that was gonna wine with DeWine would have an issue watching their governor pound booze. Now, the difference there is, it ain't like DeWine was up there with Amy Acton hammering DeWine down the gullet like you were. So, I mean, maybe if had he been drinking, we would have seen this different. I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen a governor do. I mean, come on. But I don't think it's the best thing you could do either. You're the governor of every person who lives in Maryland. Some of those people have lost a loved one to a drunk driver. And whether it's true or not, this to them is going to come off as you looking irresponsible. Enough of the comments that said it. Oh, way to promote drinking and driving. Well, wait a minute. I don't think he's promoting that. Why? Because they're drinking in a parking lot? Okay, well then, we might want to get to NASCAR as we got beer advertisements on the hood of a car doing a 190. I mean, so like, come on. But like, do we honestly think the governor's driving his ass out of there? Have I seen too many TV shows? Or the governors have drivers, don't they? Is that just John Dutton in Yellowstone? I could be, maybe I'm Yellowstone in it. But I kind of feel like a governor has a driver or enough money for Uber. If you can afford Uber, I can afford Uber. What the hell? The governor of Maryland can't afford an Uber? This is one of those things that if you hear it, oh my God, the governor drank beer with Ravens fans. You think, what's the big deal? But when you see it, it's kind of like, oof, that's the governor. It's not wrong. I really don't think it's wrong. But do I understand that you gave opposition an easy target to criticize you? Well, the answer is yes. Alcohol has negatively affected a lot of people's lives, and they expect to see it at the game, and they expect this, and they expect that, but you're a leader of the community, man. You're a role model. People looking up to you. You're supposed to be better than, right? That's what those jobs come with. So do I understand the criticism? Sure. But for some other things we have seen and known governors have been dead-ass guilty on, I don't think pounding the light beer. Was it Bud Light? I knew that dude was gay from the beginning, man. Westmore, even the name, he just kind of sounds like one of them gays, right? Like, I'm sure that's going to come into this and be part of this crazy-ass argument too. But at the end of the day, the still photo doesn't necessarily look great. But beyond that, he's just being a dude from Maryland. This is a politician trying to show you he's lying here. I'm just like you, man. I'm just like you. That's why you should give me that vote and watch what I do with it, man, because I drink beer just like you do. You and I are the same. I mean, outside of my hundreds of thousands of dollars salary, and the side of my mansion, my driver, all these things that you will never sniff. I'm just like you, buddy, drinking that beer with you in the parking lot.
Kind of funny, you can listen to him on your smart speaker. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. The Stansberry Show. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. On Rock 1069.
Welcome back to the Stansberry Show. We're on Rock 1069. We're online at WRQK.com. And every Monday at 8, we talk to Scott from WaitingForNextYear.com. You can find Scott at that site or on his X platform at WFNY Scott. My man, how are you this morning?
Doing well. Another weekend in the books. Last one with multiple football games for quite a while, but I'll have to cope through that. But no complaints. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're in for the slow season here in a little bit, but we do have a couple of great games to talk about. But we're going to put a pin in that because I think we got to talk about the Browns first. Schefter reporting yesterday. We now know that the Browns have hired Ken Dorsey as offensive coordinator moving forward. Now he has been most recently linked to the Buffalo Bills. They had released him earlier in the season after getting off to what people were calling a slow start at 5-5. and then their offense kind of started to click. So I see a lot of Browns fans talking about how Buffalo did a little addition by subtraction there. Is that how your gut feeling is for the Dorsey hire, or do you have more optimism on this morning?
Yeah, no, I think, we talked about it a little bit when it was still kind of rumored last week. Statistically, there's a bunch of numbers you could look at that the offense was actually better with Dorsey than with after. The difference is they won games, right? And I think people are really looking again. We tend to get very outcome based with a lot of this stuff. And if you don't forget, the game he was fired, it was after there was like a I can't think if it was like a 12 men on the field or some sort of defensive collapse that allowed them that they lost that game.
Kind of blew it, yeah.
And I don't know many offensive coordinators that are responsible for that, right? So it feels to me he was a bit of a scapegoat for early season struggles from a win-loss standpoint. Between the schedule, between just certain things sort of falling their way. I mean, there's a lot of things you could point to. Defense playing better. That Buffalo won some games. Playing the Jets certainly helps. When you're trying to get things back on track.
Yes.
So I'm not going to overly criticize this move out of the gate. We'll see how it works. Again, I do think. We talked about it last week, mobile quarterback and Josh Allen, mobile quarterback and Deshaun Watson. Obviously a little bit more in the way of a running back, pure running game with Nick Chubb if he's back at 100%. But, they certainly wanted to make a change. They made a couple of them across all of the offensive positions, starting with Dorsey. And, I'm willing to give it a shot. I certainly am not going to read in, too much to the fact that that a team was willing to can him, because I'm just not subscribing to the notion that their struggles were purely his fault.
Talking to Scott from winningfornextyear.com, and again, the Browns have now hired Deuce Staley and Ken Dorsey to kind of bolster that offensive staff there a little bit. Now we have to talk play calling here a little bit, right? Like, what do you think happens here with Kev and Ken? Is Kev still going to be the Andy Reid model? I'm going to head coach and I'm going to call plays, just run my offense in in practices and things like that. Like, do you see it playing that way, or did they go out and get a seasoned guy that they feel like maybe they could rip the play calling away from Kev and hand it to Ken?
And I think an underrated hire, right, real quick, is the kid they brought over from Alabama for tight ends. I think there's in his 30s, offensive mind, certainly was able to do a lot with that offense down there too. I don't know. I do think Kevin's probably still going to call plays. If you look at the Super Bowl, you have Andy Reid, you have Mike Shanahan, two guys who do that very thing, right? I mean, it's not a barometer for success as much as who's the one doing it, right? And I think there were many Mondays on this show, you and I, were applauding the play calling and the execution that they were able to put up with, certain fourth stringers almost across their entire offense at one point. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I hope Dorsey's calling plays. He is a booth guy. He's not an on-field guy, which I think is fine. But there's Kevin has proven to, have a bit of a decent track record when it comes to play calling. So I'm not looking to necessarily remove that responsibility from him. If he does, great. I think that allows him to, allocate more time otherwise. But, remains to be seen. I think, if there were gaps in the play calling that we were, able to poke holes at or quote unquote blame the loss to Houston on, I think that's different. But at no point this season did I think, man, that was a bad, was there a couple bad decisions on field? Sure. But I don't know. I don't know if Kevin, called, hey, Deshaun, throw an interception play, right? Like, I think it was just, bad execution on that front. And I'm willing to give it another run.
Talking to Scott from winningfornextyear.com, the Super Bowl is now set. Kansas City gets the win on the road yesterday at Baltimore, and the Lions had a little bit of a collapse in last night's game. So that Super Bowl logo color conspiracy just shot out of the water to shreds there. You and I both kind of laughed at that last week. So, of course, the conspiracy theorists now are back going, oh, well, now they're, it's about Taylor. And it's like, well, then wouldn't it have been about Taylor all the way leading up to this versus just this game? It's like, they're just ridiculous. The Chiefs, by the way, I mean, they just looked in control early, but then the lack of scoring in the second half is, I mean, that's not very Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid. Like, were you surprised by the second half of that first game yesterday?
Well, I mean, the defense, Kansas City's defense, is traditionally very strong in the second half. I'm not sure why, but they tend to play very well, so I'm not necessarily surprised there. I'll tell you what did surprise me, and I know this is probably not the answer to your question.
That's fine.
Baltimore needs to stop, right? Like they played solid defense throughout that entire game. They need to stop to give themselves a shot with like a minute and a half left, right? First play, 12 men on the field. Second play, offside turns into a personal foul. So you know what I mean? Like complete lack of discipline for a team that has historically been significantly one of the most prepared teams in football, right? That was probably the more surprising part. I do think you had two really, really good defenses. I think, you had a busted play that went for a touchdown for Baltimore early. You had a bunch of things that lined up that made it look like it was going to be high scoring out of the gate, and then the true team kind of showed up, right? So no, I do think Patrick Mahomes with the ball in his hands is going to give you a chance to score at any point in the game. That's what I think makes the Super Bowl pretty exciting. You have a team in San Francisco that's a lot of weapons, and the quarterback tends to be overlooked because of that, and then you have a team in Kansas City without many, and the quarterback, and to your point about Taylor, I'm sure the NFL was really concerned about ratings for the Super Bowl, that they needed somebody's pop star girlfriend in the stands to make sure everybody tunes in.
Yeah, the one game a year that's an event that people have parties at their house for. The NFL was worried nobody was going to watch it. I mean, 60 million people watched the draft for this sport. The conspiracy theories have lost. I mean, those people have lost their freaking minds. I kind of want to stick with Lamar Jackson as I'm talking to Scott from waitingfornextyear.com. I've defended the guy. I have, because I think people are a little too reluctant to admit that he's good. But playoff Lamar kind of reared its head a little bit yesterday. Like, how much criticism is fair now? Like, he's kind of under-delivered in these moments. He did not have a great game yesterday at home, by the way. Like, I feel like a lot of other quarterbacks this morning would be getting absolutely killed, and I'm not seeing it as much with Lamar. Now, I'm not looking to jump up and down on him, but, like, it's probably a little bit fair, all the criticism on the playoff Lamar narrative now, right?
Well, Patrick Mahomes didn't complete a pass to himself, did he?
All right, yeah, I like that.
No, I mean, no, it's. I mean, I think it's legit. I think, you're obviously going to get a lot of regular season MVP playoff, dialogue, right? Because he clearly has been a different player historically in the playoffs compared to the regular season. I'll be interested to see today. And the next couple weeks, I guess, as we tend to use these next couple days to talk about the games that just played, and then they move on to the Super Bowl. But between him and Jared Goff, who kind of catches more flack, because I thought Jared Goff played a really good game yesterday. Obviously things didn't go things didn't go their way defensively, right? And I'm assuming Jared Goff didn't say, hey, Jahmyr Gibbs fumbled his ball in a very critical place. But it was. So it'll be interesting. But I do think Lamar catches a lot of flack as it is from especially Cleveland fans, right? Who not quote unquote not a real quarterback, right? Like that whole narrative. But yeah, I mean, from an execution standpoint, he just looked erratic all day. He was sailing balls. He was unless he was running 40 yards to get 5. It was. I think he was pressing all day. And like I said, if Casey gets that sack and doesn't kind of rub right off of him before he throws that 30-yard pass to Zay Flowers, that game's a blowout, right? So
it really is.
Yeah, it'll go. I don't know what what Baltimore does in the offseason. They always find a way, but certainly Lamar is going to, earn any of the criticism for how he played yesterday. I don't think it takes away from the player. I think he's fantastic, but, certainly has not been able to Mahomes was a buzzsaw, man. I mean, at the end of the day, all the good quarterbacks that ran up against, Brady, all of the, the good NBA teams like the Cavs that ran up against Jordan. Right. And, Mahomes is that version of that dish now. And there's going to be a lot of good quarterbacks that are playing right now that are not going to have rings at the end of their career because they had to play against Patrick Mahomes. And I don't think, it sucks. But again, if we're only going to base career success on championships, I think you got to think through things like that, because sometimes you just run into the buzzsaws. And I think of the Cavs against the Warriors. I think of the Cavs against MJ, and they probably should have more than the one championship they do, right? And I think you can say that about a lot of these quarterbacks who just end up running into Patrick Mahomes.
Talking to Scott from winningfornextyear.com. I do have a couple of NBA things for you, but I'm going to actually put those in my back pocket for next week. I do have one final question for Scott. So we got a couple of weeks, and your answer could change a couple of times. This morning, how are you feeling about the Super Bowl? Who do you think walks away with the Lombardi? Is it San Francisco or is it Kansas City?
I
think it's Kansas City.
I think
betting against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in the Super Bowl feels insane.
That is the thing. I think, and we talked about it last year, right?
It's Brady Belichick. You can't do it.
Mahomes is a dog. Seems crazy.
Yes.
He was a dog against. They were favored against Tampa Bay, right? And Brady as a dog at that point.
Yeah.
Made a ton of sense, but. Yeah, last year, all my bets were KC because of that. I think San Francisco is the better team, top to bottom. I just don't know. I just don't know how you bet against Patrick Mahomes on any stage, let alone the biggest one of all. So I'm looking forward to the game. I think it'll be a good one. And I think, you could argue with those are the two best teams in football right now, and they get to play for the championship. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the NFL rigged it to give us the two best teams in the whole damn league. Look at it, man. They're just so damn smart, that NFL. I appreciate you, buddy. That's Scott from winningfornextyear.com. See him at the site. Find him on his X platform, too, at WFNY Scott. Next Monday, 8 o'clock right here on Rock 106.9. Buddy, have a great week.
You too, man. Thanks as always.
Always good to get his take. Look, apparently there is another conspiracy theory around Taylor Swift. This one I'm just coming to this morning. I literally just saw it as Scott was wrapping up there. So we'll look into it a little bit next.
You're never too old for a good morning kiss. The Stansberry Show. Rock 106.9.
9 a.m. I'll rock the bank and pass out that first $1,000 keyword. Continue those all day. But at 9, you win $1,000. Not bad, right? Pretty good. Well, thanks, Scott, from winningfornextyear.com. He's joining us Mondays at 8, the way he always does. And we talked a little bit already about the Super Bowl logo color conspiracy. People were on me for weeks. You're an idiot. The script's already out, man. The script, man. It's out. Because of the logo color. And I reminded everybody, it's event planning. You're going to plan early. And yeah, you might go, these are the favorites. Maybe we'll just go with the favorite of the color. To all of the logo color conspiracy people, can I ask, why do they print all those t-shirts from the losing team that say Super Bowl champions on it? Oh, that's right, it's event planning. So they want them to be able to be on sale the day after versus having you wait. Event planning. So they make those every year? And they don't just make the shirts for the team they know who's going to win since it's all rigged? You all can get together and try to form an answer and then let me know. You sound ridiculous. Like ridiculous. And here comes another conspiracy. We're going to talk about Taylor Swift a couple of different times before the end of the show. But now apparently Taylor Swift, there's this conspiracy now that she's being used as like a political pawn. And that's part of the reason why they're putting her on TV. According to the Daily Mail, they say Taylor Swift has a very good chance to sway the 2024 election. As a new poll, their results say that a fifth of voters would likely back whichever candidate is endorsed by Taylor Swift. Okay, so first, here's where the conspiracy is laughable. Whichever candidate she's going to endorse, we know who she's going to endorse. We have known who she's going to endorse. Because, see, everybody in the country badgered this poor woman into making sure she had an opinion on this. Remember when everybody used to criticize her for just trying to be Taylor Swift? Well, everybody badgered her for opinion. And so now she's giving it to everybody. And now everybody's pissed at her for that. You know what everybody's mad at Taylor Swift for? For being Taylor Swift. She's reached the saturation point for you. So that's what you're mad about. Sick of hearing about her isn't the same thing as her being a psyop. I mean, come on. Is there any mystery whatsoever who she's going to vote for? No. No. Not even close. She has been very critical of the former president and very positive about the current president. Now, let's be honest, she's positive about the current president because she doesn't like the last one. It ain't because she loves the new one. It ain't because she loves the current one. That's most people in the country. Most people who are going to vote Joe Biden don't like Joe Biden and are scared to death of what's actually happening with him. They just hate the other guy so damn much they're going to vote for Joe Biden. We can put the cards on the table and be honest about this. Everybody knows this. This isn't new. By the way, none of this is new. Celebrity endorsement for political candidates has been a thing my entire life. I'm going to remind everybody, the celebrities begged you for Jimmy Carter. Because maybe the blank space lady doesn't have it all figured out. Right? You're not mad about the fact that she's a psyop. You're mad about the fact that this is going to work. That's what you're mad about. They didn't need to beg Taylor Swift to vote for Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, if I never heard a single thing Taylor Swift ever said about politics, ever, I could just look at her age, look at how she looks, and look at the music she makes and go, Biden. I could be wrong about that guess, but it looks like I would have been right about it. We're shocked by this? Not at all. Not at all. By the way, she wouldn't need the NFL cameras to get the Swifties to vote the way she wants them to vote. I'm going to remind you, she was filling NFL stadiums before Travis Kelce. Do you get that? Travis Kelce has given this woman not a damn thing, not one damn thing. And if the NFL really wanted Taylor's ratings and all that, they would have just paid her to go to games, which they could have done. She's from Pennsylvania. You think it's necessary that crazy she occasionally watches football? I don't know about that. If you think to yourself, no way, Taylor Swift, what you're saying there is you don't believe female football fans exist. Sure, because 25 years ago, NFL.com was using Alyssa Milano to shill for NFL hoodies for women. By the way, my grandmother, my dad's mother, was the biggest football fan in my family. It wasn't close. Female football fans have been their thing forever. They've been underserved and underdelivered to forever. That's a fair conversation. But Taylor Swift a psyop now? Why? Because a young person is going to vote progressively? That's what most young people do. By the way, it's what most creatives do. Most of them vote that way. Why? Well, because normally the conservative establishment, they feel, is the one trying to keep everybody away from the art. Although that's not true anymore. It's now the left that wants you to stay away from all the art because there might be some words in there that are going to make my kid not feel great about who they are. Right? So that has kind of shifted. Fair enough. I've said it 1,000 times. I can't believe I'm watching Democrats argue for censorship. Like, I cannot believe that. But it's what's happening. Okay, so fair. Fair. But did you think the Swifties were going to vote for anybody else? Now, there is a reason to be talking about this, but nobody's using the actual reason. The better argument that this is a little bit of a psyop is that a lot of those Swifties may have stayed home and not voted. And maybe she's going to get people to the polls. Okay. There I could hear a little. Although I think Trump running again is going to make a lot of those same people go to the polls. Again, not to vote for what they want, to vote against what they don't want. Nobody's mad at Taylor Swift for being at a football game. You're mad at Taylor Swift because she's the most popular thing on the planet. This is the same reason why people hate Nickelback. This is the same reason why people hated Creed. It's the same thing. People hate popular. It's just what it is. On the way on to the top, you should listen. She's so great. 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 As soon as everybody admits, yeah, you know what? She's kind of great. She kind of sucks now. Like, that's what everybody does. This is not a conspiracy. She's young and famous, which is why the cameras are pointing themselves at her. And exactly why a political campaign's like, we need to piggyback off this heat. If you can't find a celebrity to promote your candidate, it might be time to look for another candidate. No?
To all the teachers who said he'd never amount to anything.
That is correct.
I can understand. Although I do, you know what? I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I have a screenshot on my phone if you'll give me a second here. Okay. Percentage of time that networks allocate to showing Taylor Swift during Chiefs playoff games. Not showing Taylor Swift. Not showing her on the screen. 90 Swift on camera during a Chiefs playoff game is under 1%. 0.46. Isn't it quite possible everybody's overreacting to them showing Taylor Swift? It's starting to feel, and I hate when people do this, but this is starting to feel like pretty white girl having fun, let's hate on her. It kind of feels like that. I don't know why I threw the racing thing, because I don't think it has anything to do with it. I really don't. I'm just saying, like, you know what I meant to say there is like basic. Because she is. She's like the queen of the basics. Like, that's one of the reasons why she's and by hot, I don't mean how she looks. I mean, like, the heat on Taylor is because it kind of feels like a barista got lucky, right? Like, it does. It kind of feels like that. She's not traditionally beautiful, but being Taylor Swift and, you know what I mean? Now, all of a sudden, she's a really good looking person, right? You know, welcome to, you know, people working on your staff and that kind of stuff. But it's not like you see Taylor Swift and you're like, oh my God, that's traditional beauty. It's like, nah, she's a good looking woman. Right? But I think the saturation point is a good argument, but like they're showing her too much. I don't know. I didn't hear anybody complaining about Eminem. Nobody. This kind of feels like basic girl having fun. We have to shut it down. And I hate when people say stuff like that because sometimes it's just a little too easy, but it's starting to feel that way a touch. We brought up the conspiracy theory about her with the voting now. Is one of these guys, a conservative pundit, social media star, I guess, who's talking about how it's a conspiracy, it's a psyop, they're going to use Taylor. It's like, well, it's not the first time, anywhere near the first time that a political campaign has used a celebrity. Again, I'm going to keep hammering this until they bury me in the ground. But the celebrities begged you for Jimmy Carter. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Leave the celebrity vote out of it. They're dopes. Like, they don't get it. They literally thought they were going to be on the right side of here. And then, like, no, they weren't. Like, not even freaking close. But now, since I talked about this, people are pointing out that I guess apparently there's been some leaking of some information that the Biden campaign appears that they're going to match up some of their stops at the Taylor Swift Eras tours. Oh, you mean they're going to run a smart campaign? You mean they're going to go and be near where those events are already voting for him? Now, I should maybe stay away from the word most when you're talking about an artist filling football. Their kids are all going to vote Biden. Like, that's a Taylor Swift audience right there. Like, that's for sure the Taylor audience. And that's what's going to happen. You're not mad that they're going to use Taylor Swift. You're mad and worried that it might work. That's what you're mad about. But Springsteen, whoever the bigs, that Neil Young, who wasn't even from this damn country, by the way, and is always mouthing off and like blowing it and doing that. About Taylor at the Super Bowl, that's the conspiracy. Okay, well, if that were it, then why didn't they do it to where it's Taylor versus Eminem in the Super Bowl? Two massive celebrities. So they're smart enough, Taylor, but they weren't so smart enough to make sure Eminem's there too for the push. never been made public. But a private investigator named Tom Grant threw it up on his X account this late last week with the description, download the link for a free copy of the Kurt Cobain autopsy report. The first time this report has been made public, according to Tom. Now, he's had a site where he's been talking about this issue and his investigation into the death of the case all the way back to like the late 90s. And apparently, he's come up with his conclusion on it. He claims that the document he has, the autopsy, is real. He did not tell anybody how he obtained it, which I would imagine people are going to be like, well, I'm not going to tell you that. There's a sourcing issue here. I don't want to get anybody else in trouble where May got it. I have it. This is what's going on. Apparently, there were some issues with the laws in the state of Washington back in the day on why you and I didn't get to see it. You know? His alleged report apparently confirms what a lot of people believe. And he used a shotgun on himself to do it. Now, there's also some info about what medical professionals say was found to be in Kurt's system at the time, which we all know he was not necessarily afraid to try drugs, Kurt, and there had been a mix of substances in his body. So TMZ has come out and said, look, we've tried to verify the authenticity here. We have yet to been able to do that. So I want to mention that. Now, King County officials, they're staying tight-lipped. They're not telling anybody anything. But apparently, according to this autopsy report, it confirms what people believe happened. That Kurt died by suicide. Shot himself with a shotgun, which a lot of people who own those types of guns will tell you, not the easiest thing to do, right? So, is it easy to believe that somebody who was struggling with the things Kurt Cobain was struggling with would kill themselves? Yes. That's not hard for me to believe. Is it hard for me to believe that the person who wrote the kind of lyrics that Kurt Cobain did, that person would commit suicide? Well, no. I've seen too many other artists before him do this. And I've said before, a lot of times, a great song is just a warning. A lot of times, a great song is just a cry for help. A lot of times they are. We don't want to think about it that way because we want to enjoy them, kind of, you know, apply them in our lives where we want them and use it for what we need. But a lot of times that's what it is. Now, just because it's easy to